What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode, I believe, 17. I probably should have checked the show notes before we began, but we are coming to you on a different day than normal. It is a Friday. Thursday didn't work out for reasons we will get to shortly, but welcome to episode 17 on what will hopefully be a very casual Friday as many of us on the East Coast here get ready to head off to work. And by work, I mean the weekend. So I have my co-host with me, Dave, at Dave Can Read on Instagram. Give him a follow if you don't already. Noticeably or conspicuously absent is my partner in crime, Matthew. He has some family obligations today. So Matthew, we're glad you're with us in spirit. He did help us jump in with a little bit of audio setup, but he is not able to join us. So Dave, what is new in your world?
Well, not a whole lot. I've been having a lot of car issues. So I bought an old collectible car not too long ago, and it's been a dream car of mine. And it's been in and out of the shop. It's been in the shop more than it's been on the road, which is kind of sad. But I finally got to hit the road again today and got to grab some lunch with one of our mutual friends here in Denver. And so, yeah, it was a beautiful day for that. And yeah, that's about it. How about you, Caleb?
Beautiful. Glad to hear you're able to catch up with our buddy Dano. We'll just say his first name. How's that? But he's a good fella. I miss him, and I actually get to see him in a couple of weeks. So looking forward to that. We did a little bit of a bookseller meetup. I got to hang out with my buddy Bill Martling from Sell Back Your Book. John Schramm, he runs our marketplace program for Pallet IQ. He lives in Charlotte, just moved down there to pursue a young lady. I think she wanted him to pursue her. I don't think it's a game of hide and seek. So I think that was all in the up and up. So they were all able to come in, and we actually hosted a meetup on Wednesday night in Atlanta. We had 9 people show up. So that was awesome. So Nathan, I'm going to miss people's names. Dennis, Renee, Kale. This is a bad idea. Mark. Anyway, all of you, it was so great to hang out. We had about a 4-hour dinner. We do these from time to time. So stay tuned in the Facebook groups. We try to reach out based on if we know where you're located, we'll reach out and give you a personal invite. But it was great to meet up. Had people from all walks of the business, from retirees. Tom was there as well, 70-year-old who worked at Purdue when one of the first mainframe computers came out in the early 70s. Wow. So he's a kind of computer engineer. He's done a bunch of stuff there, and now he's kind of doing books in retirement as well as a little bit of development. So it was great to hear all the different stories. If you're not in our Facebook group, some of you are watching this live there, but a lot of you are watching live on YouTube. Head on over to Facebook, check out the Book Flipper community. Go ahead and join that. We usually accept new members. We got a VA that does it. So if you don't get in right away, that's why. But we do some meetups from time to time. So by all means, check those out. And then Bill and John and myself went to the first round of the East Lake, which is the PGA final. So we were able to go check out a little bit of golf, talk some shop, just catch up on the industry as a whole. And I was supposed to just go back home and be doing this call from Indiana, but I got a call from a buddy who's down in Florida. And he said, hey, I'm going to a Joe Dispenza meditation conference. I don't think I can sneak you in, but I got extra space in my room. If you want to come and meet some cool people in the space and just come hang out in Florida with me. And I was like, okay. So I booked a flight last night, got in around 1 a.m. And I'm in Florida, had a breakfast with a friend that I just met. And then I'm hanging out with actually a couple that I went to college with way back in the day up in Tampa. So
is it still raining down there, Caleb?
It poured. We had a call this afternoon with you, and it was absolutely pouring. It's fine right now. It's overcast skies. It's very humid. So if I'm sweating over here, that's why. Yeah, we digress.
Yeah. I lived in Florida for like 9 years, and it was just, oh man. There are parts of Florida that are really nice, but Central Florida during the summer, it's nothing. Yeah, it's not fun.
Not one of them. The Panhandle's beautiful. Down south, we're actually staying on Marco Island, which is down by Naples, and it is beautiful down there. But in terms of where we're at, it's kind of the hip part of Tampa. We'll go get some, I think, Indian food for dinner. So we'll have some fun. Well, for those that are new here, if you haven't watched the show, this is the Books and Bourbon podcast is what we call it. You can check it out here live, of course, and then you can check it out on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever else you may get your podcast. So Matthew edits these after the fact, and it's great. If you are watching, drop us a note. We see a bunch of you in here. Let us know where you're sort of calling in from, and we do a lot of user questions as well. So we do a big Q&A panel at the end. as well as if you do have questions that are relevant along the way, we will certainly pop those up as well. And we do have a special guest. Everybody's asking for him already, so we'll bring him in just a second. But this is the show that is mostly about books and a little bit about bourbon. Although, again, I think you had a rule with 2 or 3 consecutive weeks, we have to drop the bourbon. This is going to be an anti or non-bourbon show, and that's okay. Just the nature of some weeks we don't drink it. So we've got Romer calling in from South America, Colombia, I believe. We got Sacramento, the 916. We got Brad in Baton Rouge. So thanks for tuning in, and we hope to provide some interesting content for you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce the special guests. And Mike,
hey everybody.
Mike? Perfect. We had a little bit of trouble. I think it was on our end actually, but we're all squared away. So Mike, thank you for joining the show. Welcome in.
Welcome. Thank you guys. Glad to be here. Hopefully we can help some people out.
So people may recognize your face or may recognize your voice. You've got your own YouTube channel and share a lot of content as well.
Yes, I'm the Golden State Picker on YouTube. I do eBay and Amazon Books FBA.
Perfect. And you are in a little bit different stage. So our audience tends to bifurcate into 2 audiences. One would be typically on the younger end, college age up to like late 20s. And then we kind of have another big, if you look at the histogram of age distribution, it tends to, we tend to have a bunch of retirees. So you're more on the golden heirs end of things. Are you fully retired at this point, or
I was retired. First, I'll give you my story real quick.
Sure.
For 30 years, I owned a business. I owned a furniture store for 30 years here in San Jose, California. And at age 57, I decided to, call it quits. Basically, it wasn't thrilling me anymore, and so I didn't need to do that. And basically, at the end, I decided, hey, well, my friends were telling me to keep up my golf game. Maybe I could do some Uber and keep bring in some extra income from my golf. And pretty soon I started watching YouTube videos, and I started watching Reezy. I think a lot of people watch Reezy, and I happened to catch Reezy because he was so prominent. And Rally Roots was another one. And it was fascinating to me as I was Ubering. I started to think that, hey, I could Uber in the morning and then start hitting thrift stores in the afternoon. And that's how it kind of started. It just started out of this natural progression. And pretty soon it just kept growing. And I was really interested in the books, the book part of it. So I kept watching Reezy, and then I started to find you. And pretty soon it all started to come together, and it just started to mesh. And I was doing really well on the thrifting side, and it started to keep growing. So I was doing half Uber, half thrifting. And before I knew it, COVID hit. And this was the big one. So COVID hit, and I was like sitting in the parking lot of Savers at 1:30, and everything was shut down. Everybody had closed. Remember, it was game over.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, what am I going to do? So I decided at that point to just say, hey, forget Uber. I don't want to do that, because that's like a walking COVID death trap, inside a car. So I decided, hey, let's start doing this. Started hitting books, pick people's books up from next door, Facebook Marketplace, all kinds of stuff. And now I'm doing this full time. So it's been full time for about 1.5 to 2 years strong.
Oh, I love it. All right. Yeah. So many good things there. I'd like to hone in just real quick on the golf element, because I can't let a golf reference go by. So are you still playing a bunch of golf?
I just played yesterday. I played 8 years on the Golf Channel Amateur Tour. I love to play golf. Yeah, I played 8 years on that. Well, so I love playing golf. I've played all my life since I was 14.
I'm not worthy to be in your presence. What's your, are you on the plus side of the handicap scale?
No, I'm not on the plus side. Yesterday I came in at a 4. So not quite. I'm not like, I don't practice as much as I used to, but I came in at a 4 yesterday.
That's fantastic. And what's your best round or most memorable round?
My best round was a 68. I'm not, I'm pretty steady at 68. That's my best round.
Anytime you can break par, it's really good. And of course, we'll probably get someone that understands golf that is going to ask what you shot on the back nine, but we won't preempt that. Yeah. Well, we could talk about golf. Yeah. Real quick, what I love about golf is it's something you'll never master. And so if you're just starting golf, there's something about it that just hooks you. You'll hit a lot of bad shots, mostly bad shots. And then you'll hit 1 or 2 just perfectly on the sweet spot. You're hooked. It just brings you back. And as you improve and you get really good, and most of your shots tend to be good, you'll hit 1 or 2 shots not on the sweet spot, and it's really frustrating. And you're like, man, I know I have it within me and I just couldn't do it here. And that'll bring you back. So golf just has this way of reeling us in over and over, no matter what. And that's
especially the 18th hole, right? It usually happens there. You usually birdie the 18th hole. You've had a horrible day, and the next thing you know, hey, this is easy.
I can do it. You're like, I can do this for sure. No problem.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll get more to your story. I'm excited, especially it sounds like you were a side hustler extraordinaire between Uber and the books. I can see some books stacked behind you, so a lot of us can relate to that. So we'll get to all that story, kind of some of the fears you had to overcome, and then it sounds like you're doing some eBay as well. So we'll jump into that. Before we get into that, this is Books and Bourbon. Again, I already alluded to the fact that we won't be consuming bourbon on this particular show, so it is kid friendly. We're just going to go around the horn real quick and say what we're drinking. It is very humid here in Florida, so I have basically a LaCroix knockoff. It's from Pure Aqua Bella V. So I don't know, never had it. It's lime. It's delicious. It's very nice. So that's what I'm drinking. Dave, are you back on the instant coffee kick still? I know we give you a hard time about it.
Instant coffee.
Yes.
It's actually room temperature now because I made it this morning.
There you go.
Room temperature instant coffee.
Love it. And Dave was, I'll throw him under the bus. He was yawning pre-show. So Mike, if Dave's yawning, it's not you. He was already tired coming into the show.
That's all right. It's all right.
And then Mike, you said you don't.
Okay. This is not Wiener Schnitzel. It's Crystal Light Grape. My wife is probably laughing. She's actually watching this from North Carolina. She's probably laughing, going, "Yeah, that's him." I keep the cup and I put the Crystal Light Grape inside there.
Perfect.
So that's what that is.
As long as the cup can keep living on, have a second.
Keep living on. It lives on.
Hey, cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, let's do it. Why not?
Isn't it taboo in some cultures to like toast with not like with? Is it water or is it something that's not alcoholic? I think it's water. It's like bad luck to cheers with water.
Might be. I don't know.
Probably. I know you're supposed to look each other in the eyeballs, and I think you're supposed to drink once you're done cheersing. I know another one too. If you're across the table, you can sort of like just tap the table with your drink, or just kind of hold it and nod. Yeah. But yeah, we should probably get into some of the history of cheers if we're going to be on the show. But
and maybe we should cheer in a different language every show.
There we go. We're gonna run out of languages at some point. Avery thinks there's about 400 countries out there, so we're still trying to learn. Still trying to teach him a thing or two.
I was gonna say, I think we skipped over any market news.
We did. So typically, there's not a lot of market news because we just end up doing these weekly, and Amazon fortunately doesn't change fees. They are changing fees. We mentioned this last week. There's going to be some Q4 increases coming up. It sounds like it's about 30 cents a book, and those are going to kick off on October 15. So for Scout IQ, Pallet IQ customers, we will implement those changes October 1. If you do want to implement those earlier, you can simply raise your buy cost by about 30 cents, and that'll get you good enough for government work. Dave, any other industry news to share?
Not off the top of my head. I know that just from conversation with people in other parts of the country, and Mike, I'd be interested to hear your take on this, but I've just been noticing that the book donations, like the Goodwills and the thrift stores, have been really heavy these last few weeks, and it's just been an abundance of books. Mike, has that been your experience at all?
Yeah, especially this week. I just got back, so I was gone for 2 weeks. I do this with another guy. We both split it. We have a system. So I was away for 2 weeks, so I got the scoop this week. And they did pick up. They have picked up quite a bit. And today we were shocked when we got there that there was 6 bins up there. So that's a lot. That's a lot for usually. And that's basically we skip every other day. So that was strong. We're seeing, a good amount of books coming through. There was a period where it was a little soft, but now it seems to be a little better.
So here's my question to you guys is like, I've been doing this for 14 years now. And with the amount of books that I see, not only for me, but like for all the other people doing it. And like, we're just going through these books, and a lot of people are either throwing them away or recycling them. And like pulling it out of circulation is like, how much longer are there going to, I mean, it's like, where do all these books come from? And there's still tons of old books. Any theories?
I know that when I go through my bins, it's an interesting way I think about things. Is crazy because a lot of people pass away. So you'll see, an estate clearing something out. I like to guess their profession. It's like, this has got to be a lawyer because there seems like a lot of law books, or a doctor, or a nurse. You just kind of feel the bins. But yeah, I've often thought about that too. But it's like everybody still likes to hold a paperback or hold a book. They're out there. It just seems like endless, right? I think it's just going to keep going. I don't think it's going to really slow down, at least during my lifetime, I hope.
I think it's all product life cycle. So you're right, Mike. I think we see a lot of people with huge collections, or hoarders, or professors, or pastors, and eventually they pass away or downsize and kind of get rid of their collections. I still need to share some results. We just finished scanning everything that came in. We got about 4,600 scans, I believe, from a gentleman that passed away. His son-in-law wanted the books to live on, and so we actually paid for shipping. A moving company moved them out of Pennsylvania and shipped them to us in Indiana.
Hold on, Caleb, is this the load that you and I talked about in like episode 3 or 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we started scanning like mid-July. We've got some labor issues at the warehouse, and we have a lot of other pallets to get through as well. So we finally got through it like a week ago. And then we have a bunch of old material that we're going to run by Max and see if there's any value there. But about 4,600 books that had ISBNs or barcodes. And then there's probably another 1,500 to 2,000 books that don't. So we'll kind of go through those with Max. So good results, high quality books. So you're going to see that happen all the time. There's a gentleman in Fort Wayne who got rid of his collection, and we picked up a couple thousand locally as well. Those are out there. So for anybody watching, just a pro tip, even if you live in a small market, I'm in a town of 15,000 people. One, you can find deals countrywide if they seem good enough. You can pay for shipping and everything else. But I had a professor in my own town that was one of my college professors. He didn't know I was back in town right about 2 years ago when I moved back to Indiana. And he got rid of a basement full of 20,000 religious books, which would have been absolutely amazing.
Damn, that's cool.
And he gave them to Goodwill. So those trickle down, whoever the scouts are in our area, because I don't do a lot of cherry picking anymore. Whoever the scouts are, made out like bandits, or Goodwill scanned them, or whatever happens locally in our area. But those are out there, and the books I think every year there's more books published than the year before. So this whole, you think, top of the funnel, a lot of people read the books, kick them out, and they get back into the food chain. But so many other people just hold them. And one of the benefits is it feels wrong to take a book and throw it away. We just don't do it as a culture, which is great. So
yeah,
it's going to be
great. Definitely. Yeah. It's kind of hard when I'm scanning books to throw books away. You see a book and you go, oh, because I have a really great setup where I don't have to take the rejects. They stay there. But I have to give it away. You know what I mean? I have to put it back in the bin. And so it's going to get recycled again. I'm scanning the Gaylord, taking what I want, and then putting back the rejects. And then those rejects get resold overseas. So that's a great thing. A lot of people rip on us because, hey, you guys are resellers, blah, blah, taking away from this and that. But we're actually recycling. We're actually moving stuff through, saving stuff. I think that's what's really great about it.
Well, I was going to say early on in my career too, like the first or second time I bought a truckload of books, I didn't know how to get rid of them. And so I look back at young David and I'm just like, what were you thinking? But we take all those rejects, put them into a Gaylord box, or actually, no, we put them into postal tubs, and we would dump them back into our Goodwill outlet. And then 3 weeks later, you're sitting at your dock and you're scratching your head. You're like, I feel like I've seen these books before.
There you go.
And so, we quickly learned to stop doing that. But, you really do run into sort of a dilemma where it's like when you have a large amount of books, there aren't too many places, at least back then, that would just take them,
Right. Well, that's what we do. We have a system of marking our Gaylords, so we do not get our Gaylord back. We have a way of doing it, and then we make sure we watch. As a matter of fact, on Wednesday, they sent 56 Gaylords that we had already gone through out onto a big truck. So they are getting out, and we have a really good system for what we're doing, and it's very comfortable, very easy. It's hard to find it though. It's hard to find that outlet.
Yeah. Well, let's get into that story of the system. But before we do that, let's back up. You mentioned you were driving for Uber. You'd kind of discovered flipping used books. A lot of people hear about it. So many people come across either Romer. Everybody starts with an R. Romer, Rakin, Reezy.
Yeah, Rakin.
So they, there's a couple mics as well. We had a mic on a couple weeks ago. We got another mic today. But a lot of people find that content and they go, well, who reads books anymore? This seems too good to be true. There's no way this works, and they never get started. So what about it drew you in? Like what intrigued you and thought, man, maybe I can make this work? And what was the first step or two that you took as maybe someone who was a disbeliever on the outside to actually to get started in the book game?
Right. My first inclination was, okay, was it like just everybody else? Is this really true? And you have to take it with a grain of salt, so to speak. You have to think about it and say, look, okay, some of it's probably really true, and some of it's kind of, whatever. And I just said, okay, let's give this a try. Let's see what we can do with books. Now, the hardest part is you really need a few pieces to the puzzle. You need Scout IQ. You need to be an Amazon seller. You can, so you've got to make a little bit of a dollar investment. So that was the biggest thing and I think that's with most people. They've got to commit to about $100 a month in fixed costs, and you've got to cover that somehow. So I said to myself, look, and this is my situation. I really didn't need to cover the 100. If I was short on the 100, it was no big deal. I just needed to keep learning and keep going. So I started out with the Goodwills and the thrift stores and the flea markets, and I made the commitment. It took me about 2 or 3 months to really figure it out. I kind of was just sketching around. But anyhow, that's how I started, very slowly, with a mindset that this was not going to happen overnight. I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. They think, boom, I'm going to start making this kind of money right away. No, you're not. You're going to have to build, and you have to find the outlets. Like Dave said, he was buying trucks. I'm buying Gaylords. That's where it's at. So you have to start slow, and you just have to believe you can do it and just work at it.
Well, and that's one of the differentials between working for Uber. So Uber allows you, I don't know in 2019 if they did, but at the end of a shift, you could push a button and get money deposited into your account. Yeah. So you're literally trading time for money, which we do in our world as well. We trade our sourcing time for money. And as you get the hang of things, as you sort of, like we talk about getting started, then scaling up, as you scale up in the Uber world, you learn where the best routes are and what the best time of day is and what suits your business decisions. Same thing in the book game. You learn, all right, what works best for me? Where do I have a competitive advantage? Where can I leverage relationships? And so a lot of that tends to just build over time. The downside of books is that it is an inventory-based game, is what we call it. People hesitate when I use that language, but it's a game that we're trying to sort out and try and figure out how to win the book game. And part of that is the inventory. And once you get it, you don't just get to turn it right into cash unless you're flipping it back to like a wholesale company like Sell Back Your Book or Ziff It. But what you do then is you take those books and you list them. And that work that you did back in March, for example, some of those books are still selling today, 5-6 months later. So you kind of get a benefit. We put SKUs on everything we list. And so I can literally pull up all my sales and go, oh, this one was listed in August of 2019. This one was listed, last month. This one was listed this month. And so it's kind of fun to see that the work we did way back when is starting to accumulate and pay out today. But that is one of the things that people, I think, misunderstand or underestimate, is just that it takes a bit for inventory.
Exactly. I have seen my sales this year explode. And that's because I was consistently finding books and putting them in and realizing, like, I just came back from vacation. I was stunned. I hadn't put any books in for 2 weeks, and I sold $10,000 worth of books gross in the 2 weeks that I was gone. And yeah. It's like, that's great. It's like, because I've done all the work and now I've got to get more books in, but I've built this inventory inside the system. And that's the thing. You have to build the inventory. And I tell people, I say, look, it's once you build and you're going slow and you're not seeing a lot of traction, but if you just hang in there and you keep looking for that ultimate source, when you find that ultimate source, you now have all the knowledge, and now you just hammer it. You just start going, and it builds.
That it does. And David can definitely attest to that. He's built systems with his employees, with his staff, with the way he's getting books. And it's been really fun to see how even now, he's still tinkering, he's still experimenting. But all three of us here have the same skill. We have a superpower in that we can take a stack of books and turn them somehow magically into money. Like it's alchemy. We can turn books into money. Now, again, some of us are more efficient than others. Some of us are better at finding the books. But in general, we all have that same skill set. So we have to refine it. We have to be as efficient as we can within reason. And then really, it just depends on how we can find more books. But one of the ahas for me was like, one, I still remember vividly the first $1,000 day. It was kind of during textbook season. I was riding a bike with a buddy and kept, reaching into my back pocket on my bike jersey and pulling my phone out as we're at stop signs and just looking, refreshing, waiting for that to cross the threshold. But you can be on vacation. Like I'm down in Florida, my book business is running without me. I've got a warehouse guy, which helps. But all the work that I've done over the last, most of the books that are selling are within 6 months. But I've got long tail stuff from, 2, 3, 4 years ago still that is still really expensive. And I sell a copy here and there. And so it's kind of a reminder of that work I did back then is still paying me back today. And like you mentioned on the vacation, it's so cool to be sitting there. And you can't be on vacation forever because at some point your inventory gets depleted. Yeah. But the work you did, however long ago, as a younger Mike or a younger Dave, is starting to pay off today. So before we move on to what your business model looks like today, so you got started. Yeah, it sounds like thrift stores. You kind of jumped in there. Can you give us just a few steps that you took, maybe a mistake or two that you made that maybe you wish you could have changed, just so people that are on the fence or are just getting started can maybe take a few tips and pearls away?
Boy, I didn't, you know what? I hate to say it. I didn't make a lot of mistakes. I made some mistakes of sending in high rank books that kind of, I right now I'm a little more leery of the higher ranked books in general, so to speak. I like to make sure of that. Early on, you kind of think everything's good. Your vision is like, okay, wait, all these books are good. That's why it's so important to have Scout IQ. I mean, it's just an amazing app to me. It's just, I can't explain it, Caleb, but that thing is absolutely, to me, is phenomenal, obviously. But you just have to learn as you go along. You're going to make mistakes of what books aren't selling. And I'll tell you early on, some of the stuff that frustrated me was the way I was putting my books in. I wasn't using, believe it or not, a label printer. I wasn't using ScanLister. I was using Amazon software, and it was like very, very difficult, slow laser printing. And once I started to transition to that, so what I think where my mistakes were early on was not being efficient enough within the system. It was just too slow for me, just way too slow.
Yeah, I'm not sure where Caleb popped off to, but I guess we can continue the conversation. Right. So I guess when you first started off, you mentioned Scout IQ, you mentioned a label printer. Are there any other tools or I guess tricks of the trade that you sort of picked up along the way that has helped, grow your business?
I mean, it's just a little piece here and there from everybody, but mostly mine has been the technical side of it. The hustle side is easy for me. I can hustle all day long. I don't have a problem with that. I have more of a problem with the technical side. So it's always been something software related. ScanLister really makes a difference for me. I know there's other pieces of software, but that's where it's at. I think that people need to learn those type of things and really understand their whole system, from how they scan the books, how they list the books, how they ship the books, and develop that system. That is key. You have to have a good system, because books, boy, they can pile up really fast. They can really pile up fast. So you have to find, that's the area I think that you need to focus on, is how to get these into Amazon efficiently, that kind of thing. And where I made my mistakes early on was I was not efficient enough early on in my thrifting. And I learned that over time. And that's the only thing I can tell you, is you're going to learn that over time.
Gotcha. Hey, Mike, one other question for you. Do you have any employees right now?
No, I am a one-man show. Wow. All the way around from eBay to Amazon. It's if you watch my system, if you saw my house and saw I have my house, I have a rule. These books are in here because my wife is in North Carolina. They would not be in here if she was home. We have a rule. Nothing inside the home, generally speaking, unless I'm going to do a book. And that's the way it is. I get the garage. I have a 2-car garage, and that's where I work out of. And I have some storage sheds along the back side of the house, which if you walked in, you couldn't see.
That's awesome.
That's it.
Wow.
It can be done. Hey, this can be done from a 2-car garage or anything. You do not need a big warehouse. You can start out with books and everything else, basically out of your house. That's the great thing about it. That's the most amazing part of this whole thing with books.
Yeah, you don't need a huge investment to start.
No.
Like I think you mentioned before the show that you were a business owner for a number of years. That you said it was a store selling furniture.
Yeah, I had a furniture store for 30 years.
Okay, and did you start that from the start, or did you buy?
I started that from scratch too. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. When I opened, you would laugh. When I opened up, my wife's probably listening to this going, yeah. When we opened up with 3,000 square feet, not knowing anything. By the time I was done, I had almost 20,000 square feet.
No kidding.
Now I was there for 25 years in this one location. And I had an amazing run. Full sell mattresses, furniture, everything. I had trucks, I had employees, I had the whole 9 yards. I will tell you that this here, personally, I had a lot of fun doing my business, but I'm having more fun at age 60 doing books and doing eBay than ever. That's why I have this enthusiasm. I just love, hey, you either have it or you don't. You got to get out there and hustle.
What do you think the biggest difference is between, like, obviously in a furniture store you're selling furniture, but like as far as starting off, and you mentioned right now it's like you haven't had so much fun as selling books online, right? What do you think that big difference is? Is it kind of the thrill of the hunt, or? Yeah,
exactly. I think it is the thrill. It's a thrill of the hunt. Once you like today, I picked up a book that scanned at $191 profit today. One book. When you see that as a reseller or whatever, and you go, wow. And then when you see it actually sell on Amazon, that's it. You're hooked. You're done. That's how it works. So that's the enthusiasm you need. You need to have some wins. You have these big wins. And then it's the thrill of the hunt. Hey, I can tell you, in North Carolina, I was thrifting on my phone. It's crazy. I had guys going to estate sales, and they picked me up 6 clocks, my buddies. They said, hey, go, I'll take 6, take them. Yesterday, I was on the golf course, and I picked up 2 Halloween items because 2 of my buddies were in the store and said, you want them? Yeah, boom. I go and pick them up at their house. So this is the enthusiasm. It's true. You just got to learn how to do everything. With books, the same thing. I got a guy today showing me, hey, estate sale with books, Mike. Here you go. I'm networking with other guys, other people, and that's how you do it. You just keep building. And the difference, too, is I will tell you, it is capital intensive to own a retail business, period. We will have to deal with employees. I have told myself that now, if you've noticed the way everything has gone retail-wise, all of these employees are demanding more. I would have had a major issue in California where wages are high. How was I going to pay these people to be competitive? I would be losing people. Here, it's all on me. Whatever I put into it, I'm going to get out of it. Now, I could go out and get employees. I really don't need to. I just want to make a nice retirement. That's all I want. So other people may be a little bit different.
Yeah. So it just occurred to me, another example to talk about golf. And I'm sorry, I had I use Crisp, KRISP. I shouldn't throw them under the bus, but it kind of mutes some of the background noise. Well, it quit on me unexpectedly, and StreamYard didn't know how to actually feed the sound back through my computer. So I had to refresh the browser, and I missed a little bit of that. So apologies there. I think we're fine now. One of the things you mentioned is like when you found that $190 book and you're like, all right, this seems too good to be true. And then it sells and you're like, wow, I'm hooked. That's really what golf does to us and brings us back. And it's literally, you're going to make mistakes in golf. That's you can't avoid it, but you just got to be in the game, go be on the range, be on the course. And I think that's the same thing when it comes to any business, is just that startup phase. And Avery, or Romer the Roamer, is somebody, he views me as his mentor. I actually look up to him in a lot of ways. He's really good about just jumping in and getting things going. A lot of times he doesn't think about what could go wrong or doesn't plan as much, and that kind of drives me crazy. But I admire the fact that he jumps in and just gets started. And I think that's the beauty of the Amazon business, is you can just get started. It doesn't cost a lot. You're going to make a ton of mistakes just in terms of buying maybe wrong things or networking with the wrong people or whatever it may be. but you're going to have that $100 book. I think everybody posts those in the Facebook groups, and here's my, my triple digit win. And then when they actually sell, it's like hitting the sweet spot on a golf shot. You go, wow, I'm hooked. I'm coming back. And then as you mature in your business development, you begin to hit more and more good shots, so to speak. And you're still going to make mistakes. That's okay. I take calculated risks. I think business is just a game of risks in general. But I think that's what keeps bringing us back, is just being in the game and learning how to ramp up.
I think there's a great quote. Go back to golf. Ben Hogan said one time, somebody asked him something, and he said, they said they wished him luck. He said, the more I practice, the luckier I get. It's the same thing. The more I source, the more I work, the luckier I get. Doesn't mean I'm lucky. It just means, hey, I'm hitting more bins. I'm hitting more things. That's it. It's like I tell people with my eBay, they look at my eBay, said, look, you've got two things on your body that work. They're called your feet. If you get your feet moving and you keep moving and you keep doing things, eventually, believe it or not, something's going to fall into your lap. Same thing with books. You got to dig. I don't like digging through hey, I'm 60 years old, and sometimes the sun comes over and I got to dig through a big gaylord of books, and it's hot and I'm scanning away. I'm tired, but you know what? I'm looking. I'm wanting to find that $191 book, and I did today. And it was like, hey, I found others. I mean, I think I scanned 700 and something books and took 216 away.
Yeah,
so phenomenal. It's just a matter of doing it.
Yeah, we talk a lot about, I love that phrase, the harder I work, it's so true. I think the more reps you have, the more experience you have, you tend to get, more and more predictably lucky. I never liked the idea of playing the lottery, because in this world, in the retail arbitrage world and the book world, we have the ability to go in and just like predictably, I can go spend $100 and normally turn that into, $300, $400, whatever, a couple $100. So I know that over time, that risk is going to pay off. And sure, I'll go to a thrift store sometime and strike out and nothing happens. And that's okay. That's part of being in the game. But one book can make your day, like the $190 book today. One source can make your week. And really, one haul can make your year. I mean, there's been hauls that we go in. It's like, man, the prospective or projected profit here is astronomical. So that's why we do what we do. You put yourself in the game. Some days you strike out. Some days you hit singles. Some days you hit home runs. And that's really what we're after.
That's it. Consistency is what we want. I think we really need consistency.
Sorry to interrupt. I was going to say there's another golf metaphor that I heard recently as I was chatting with CEO of a larger book chain. And I want to hear you guys take on it, because what he said is like book selling is kind of like golf in the sense that, yeah, we're all playing the same game, somewhat in competition, but when you're golfing, you're also just kind of playing against yourself. You're working on improving yourself. And the same thing in the book business. Like, yeah, you have competition at the same sources. Caleb, you and I work with the same vendors sometimes. But at the end of the day, you're not so much playing against them as you are working on your own game. And I just wanted to hear your guys' take on that. How true do you think it is? How accurate is it?
Yeah. That is 100% true. That's how life is. I think you're working against yourself. You have to convince yourself that you can do this. If you start, that's when you lose confidence, right? You have to have the confidence that every day that I go to these bins or every day that I do something, that it's going to work out for me. You just have to have that. You have to have that inner belief and work on yourself. That's kind of why I don't want to say I'm a loner when it comes to this, and I have only myself. I really put it upon myself. It's a lot of weight to carry because of what I'm doing, but hey, that's me. I'm built that way, and that's kind of the way it is.
I echo that. John always talks about having delusional self-confidence when it comes to golf, because it is a very mental game. Once you have the technique down for swinging the club properly, great. But if you actually get into the weeds and your mind gets, if you start thinking too much about the game, you're going to struggle. I mean, you're really millimeters away from, we don't like to say the word shank, but you're millimeters away from being hosel adjacent.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's just mental. It really is mental. But in terms of comparing, I like to look at the pros. I like to watch them yesterday and hear the sound that their club makes when they hit a golf shot. It's unbelievable. And some days I get little glimpses of what that could be, but I will never, ever, ever play the game at their level. No. But seeing that level of golf gives me motivation and says that level of golf is attainable. Maybe not for me, but I'm certainly going to try my best to work towards it. The other piece I like is you get to pick what you want. So golf sometimes for me is competitive. I put myself in competitive situations, and it just gives you a chance to see how you deal with pressure, see how you deal with it exposes areas of your game you need to work on. So sometimes it's great to compete. Sometimes I just go out in the evening and it's just to enjoy and get some fresh air and feel the grass and the sunshine. And that's a win in and of itself, regardless of what I shoot. And other times it's social. It's a chance to interact, to meet somebody, to hear their story. And all of those are winning the game of golf, although they may not be score related. So I love that, Dave. I think that's phenomenal.
Cool. Well, Mike, going back to I guess your journey in the book selling world, you've been selling now for a total of 3 years.
Yeah, I've been selling for 3 years. I think Caleb was 2019 was when I first signed up for Scout IQ.
Yeah, we pulled up March of 19.
Yeah, that was it. That was March of 19. Was it January, February, March? Yeah, March when I got that, and ever since then I've been just growing and growing. This year has really taken off, and that's where the work pays off. I had I tell people always ask me on my channel, it took me 1.5 years to really find a great source for the books. So I didn't struggle because I was making money. But I always thought, there's more to this. I just got to figure it out. And that's what I'm talking about is you just have to keep going. They ask me, there's no easy answer to it. A lot of people ask, well, where do you find your books? How do you find your books? I can only lead you in certain ways. Your area is completely different than mine. I'm in the Bay Area. I tell people, I'm very honest. I'm in Silicon Valley. There is a ton of money here, a ton of money. I mean, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. I tell people the hardest part is behind the scenes. The easy part is for me to go out to Goodwill, to go out to where I source. That's the fun part. So, you just got to, every area is different. You got to dig it out.
Absolutely. I would say, like, just touching on something you mentioned earlier, like networking is a huge part of that. And just, it's not even intentionally going out, intentionally looking for new suppliers, but I'm sure you've had this experience before, but and Caleb and you and I have talked a lot about this when you go to introduce yourself, as opposed to saying, hi, my name is David. I'm in e-commerce, right? Instead of doing that, saying, hey, my name is David, and I work with thrift stores and libraries to help them recycle used books. That really opens up kind of sparks, and maybe they don't have books that they're looking to get rid of, but maybe they know the manager of another thrift chain. They're like, oh, hey, have you talked to Mike in San Francisco? He has a bunch of books that he gets rid of. No.
Well, that's how I found my the honey hole. Another picker told me about it. I walked in thinking something totally different. I was not looking for books that day. I was looking for something else. Out popped some books, and I said, do you guys sell books here? Bingo. Up went the light bulb. They said, yes, we do. I said, how much are they? You're going to laugh. $100 a Gaylord.
Wow.
That's what I pay. $100. I said, okay. And the rookie that I was, I should have been grabbing every Gaylord, but I was only able to grab one or two. Now it's like, what's ever up there, we're taking, so that's how it worked. I wasn't looking for books, believe it or not. I was looking for something else, and it stumbled into the Honey Hole thrift store.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, for my business, these last couple of years with supply chain issues, and, we have a number of employees here. We're at about 19 now.
Wow.
Yeah. And, just operationally, we've faced some issues with rising costs, rising labor costs. Has COVID and supply chain issues really affected you as a solopreneur?
No, it really didn't. Actually, I believe it or not, COVID forced. This is the thing again. I talk to people about is the circumstance that you're in is going to force you to do something. You're either going to crumble or you're either going to have to find a way. I sat in that parking lot and I said to myself, okay, now what? Everything's shut down. So I switched gears and moved into the next door Facebook. People started to clean their house out. They were staying at home, cleaning their house out. I put ads up, wanted books, wanted this. That's how it happens. So every situation's a little bit different. Again, with me, the supply chain early on, I just had to battle through it. And when it reopened, it was a little struggle to try to figure it out. But since then, no. But I actually worked really well through it.
That's awesome. It's really interesting to hear different perspectives. Caleb, I know COVID sort of affected you. You have some employees and some material costs. But generally speaking, has it affected you guys much?
Basically the biggest takeaway from COVID was giving us the motivation to jump back in and do merchant fulfilling. And so it allowed us to, we still didn't hedge our risk in terms of getting away from Amazon and getting out of that risk bucket or their sandbox, so to speak. But in terms of being so focused on FBA, it did open up. And that's kind of the biggest maybe itch that we scratched, was just kind of scrambling and getting into merchant fulfillment, which actually really prepared us for restock limits. Now restock limits are not a thing. I don't think they're even going to creep up. I know Mike Kreider's watching this episode as well. He tends to agree. He's usually got a pretty good pulse on what Amazon's doing. He probably is related to Bezos somehow. But I don't see that being an issue moving forward. I want our business to be more FBA. It's a little bit leaner process just in terms of our workflows. And then it means we have to ship out fewer things, which means we can spend more time scanning and listing the next batches. So that was probably our biggest takeaway. We didn't really have employees at the time. I got a warehouse manager, I guess, during COVID, once I moved back to Indiana and wanted to get that more autopilot where I could spend more time doing software and building relationships. So it didn't impact us as much, although we did have to scramble and just pivot, is kind of the fancy word that we say in business.
Yeah. Well, so Mike, I guess that leads me to ask you, like, what did you do did you get hit by the restock limits at all last year?
That was the next thing I was going to say. See, that was my big issue at the fourth quarter of last year, because I was ramping up, and all of a sudden they lowered us. The one guy who does stuff with me, he went from only 1,600. They dropped into 900. He had all those books in. They actually lowered him. He now had to dump books or do something. So we had a struggle all the way through till about January of this year. Then January of this year, magically, boom, all of a sudden my restock limits went through the roof, and I'll never hit my restock limit now. And I don't know. I'm a little worried that they might adjust it back down. I currently have 3,000 books in at Amazon. My average book sales per day is around 40, roughly 40 sell a day on Amazon. So my theory, this is another way to think of things. I like to think of things, even on my eBay business side, one in, one out. If I sell 8 items a day on average throughout the year of eBay, that's what I did last year. I want to put 8 in. So at least I might put more, I might put less. So the same thing with Amazon. A box of books is about 35. Okay. That if I put 1 a day in, okay, and I'm doing well, scanning it well and doing stuff, then you should have a nice rotation coming through. And that's what I'm seeing. I'm never seeing my inventory go way out, way up. The reason I have probably 3,000 in there is there's some dogs in there, or, some long tail. It happens to us. But that's it. I don't see that going. If I saw that creeping up to 5,000 and not selling, then I'd have to say to myself, I'm doing something wrong. But I don't. I see that. I'm not afraid to put a $2, $1.50. I think Caleb probably talks about this book in. I will throw some of those in as long as they're a high E-score, so that I can get some rotation through.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I like the aspect. So what you're describing is where your business is in equilibrium. Whatever you're putting in, the inputs match the outputs. So theoretically, as long as the Amazon market doesn't change substantially, that business model, if you can control those inputs regularly, you can now have a predictable outcome. You talked about your sales. You say you share all the numbers on your YouTube channel as well. So what are your sales typically? Sounds like you're selling 40 units on 3,000 items, which is 1.3% sell through a day, about 10% a week, which is really, really healthy. What are your sales typically each month?
My sales right now, I just looked here. My sales for the last 30 days are 20,100. Let me switch it to books just to see. Units sold 1,182 in the last 30 days.
Yeah, so you're selling well over 30% of your inventory in a month, which is phenomenal turnover. That means you're running a lean inventory. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. You could certainly try and only send fast moving books in, and you could even get your sell-through rate up to 40, 50, 60%. Right. You'd be leaving money on the table, so to speak, because you wouldn't be selling the long tail books, right? But you could kind of optimize that way. But I love where your business is at. And if you ever decide to ramp up even further and try and get that from 20 grand a month to 30 or 40, you're just going to have to start gradually cranking up the input. So you're going to have to list, 2 boxes a day or 3 boxes every 2 days.
Right.
One of the other questions I had, so once you get to equilibrium, you can make that choice with just like playing golf. Am I trying to get better at golf? Am I trying to enjoy the sunshine and get a beer with my buddies? You have that choice of, all right, can I just keep this thing running on mostly autopilot? It still requires your effort, but you now have the system in place. You know what to do. As long as you can keep finding books consistently, you know that the system bears itself out in the end. The question then is, do you want to ramp it up? Do you want to ramp it back? Where are you at in your life?
See, that's the thing. That's the great thing about this whole reselling thing. And what I mean by that is I'm 60. I don't want another $1 million business. That's me. I don't want it. So everybody is different. I could, Caleb, go out there and really ramp it up. I probably could. I think my wife would kill me. Okay. Or what, generally she just retired 3 weeks ago. I have plans. I have plans to take vacations, and that's what I want. That's what I'm using this for. I'm using this for my retirement, to supplement my retirement. I got to get to 65. So I have a 5-year kind of plan. And then I'm probably going to slow down even more. It's just a great way now to supplement. We've got inflation. People are out there struggling. What a way to kind of go against it and maybe help your family out. You don't have to sell a ton of books. You could just start out slowly. And guess what? It might turn into a full-time business. That's what happens. When I started my furniture store, what was I doing prior? I was building furniture. I was within the industry. I was making furniture. I was doing stuff. And then it was like, hey, I'm pretty good at this. Let's take it to the next step. So it's just a constant way. And for me right now, I'm happy with equilibrium. I'll stick with equilibrium. I do my total sales. I'll tell the people out there, my total sales for eBay and Amazon last year were near 300,000. This year I am projecting $340,000 for Amazon and eBay.
That is insane for one person. Well, I'm guessing wife helps out here and there, but
no, nothing. It is all me. Every drop of that 300. Yeah,
that is very remarkable. So along the lines of the equilibrium, I have a thought there, and then I want to ask about your like weekly and monthly rhythms. What does it take to maintain equilibrium? But in terms of equilibrium, if that's a new concept for you, if you're trying to figure out what's possible in the business, one, you can follow Mike's journey. He's got Golden State Picker. He's got the YouTube channel. You can drop a follow there. Are you active on Instagram or Facebook, Mike?
I have Instagram. It's Golden State Picker Mike on Instagram.
Okay, so at Golden State Picker Mike. Any underscores, or is it just all the letters?
It's got the whatever. I don't know how it works on Instagram. I'm not a big Instagram. I am on there. I have about 3,000 followers, not many, but
perfect. So search Golden State Picker on Instagram. I'm sure Mike will pop up. If you're curious about equilibrium, just a friendly plug. We have a site. It's kind of how I got started with books. It's called the 100bookchallenge.com. I posted it up on the screen. If you're listening to the podcast and can't see it, it's the 100. That's 100, and then bookchallenge.com. And it actually has some spreadsheets. Of course, I love spreadsheets, but you can plug in your inputs. It'll kind of predict your outputs. You can guess what you're going to be selling them for, or kind of talk through with other sellers. And that'll give you a feel of what happens when you do reach equilibrium, what's possible. Because the goal of business is not just to increase more. Like we always say, more. We always want to grow. I'm competitive. If I sold 100 grand last year, I want to sell more this year. If I sold $1 million last year, I want to sell more this year. Well, more isn't better. More is just more. And with it comes more headaches, more challenges, more overhead. And so, Mike, I love where you're at, where you say, hey, I've got this 5-year plan, trying to kind of get myself as this bridge or this stopgap till retirement sets in. And certainly with the skill sets you have, with the track record of business you have, you could certainly pour more gas on this fire. You could hire employees. You could figure out how to work more hours. But I love where you're at, saying, you know what? This business serves me, not the other way around. And so you're purposely keeping that business at equilibrium. And I don't think we celebrate that enough in the entrepreneurial community. We like to wear this badge of hustling and grinding on our chest and on our shoulders. So Mike, congrats on that. Yeah. I love that mentality. Keep preaching that. I think a lot of people need to hear that.
Yeah. I think that's big time now. You're seeing that in the overall workplace. People are not wanting to grind 60 hours. They're starting to realize, hey, there's more to life. That's me. This has gotten pretty big for me. And I mean, it's a full-time thing for me. But again, I will slowly wind down. And I thought I was going to wind down this year. I really did when my wife's going to retire. Heck, it's as long as you got the hustle, it's going to happen. And it's what's been going on. It's like, it's not stopping.
I love it. Well, can we talk rhythms for a bit? So you mentioned listing a box a day to kind of supplement or augment what's sold. So you're selling 30 to 40 books a day. You want to list 30 to 40 books a day. Do you do that weekly, or as a solopreneur, do you sort of batch your tasks? Like what does a week in the life of Mike look like? What do you source certain days? Are you listing certain days? Do you do everything? Just walk us through what that may look like as someone else that doesn't quite understand it. Help them piece that all together.
Yeah, I basically have a pattern of sourcing. I source Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's the days. And in between, those are the days that I concentrate on trying to get the books out. I will take certain days, like maybe a Thursday, and I will devote the entire morning, afternoon to books. Okay. Now, when I source my books, to give you an idea, I source my books on Monday. Let's say I go, we basically go from 7 o'clock in the morning. We get there pretty early. And then I get out of there maybe by 11. Then I hit the thrift stores. So then I go, hey, I got my luck cart. Now I'm going to hit my thrift store route, Savers, Goodwill, so forth. And then at the end of the day, head back home. And in between that, at night, I will be doing, it's like, hey, YouTube, yeah, you do YouTube videos. It's crazy. So I'm doing YouTube videos. I'm doing photographing, that kind of stuff. Hey, you just don't put books into Amazon. Those books right there on that bench, they just sold for $200. That's an eBay item. That's sold for eBay. So, we've got to constantly do that. So that's my week. My week is Monday, Wednesday, Friday sourcing. Saturdays are garage sales. I'm a hustler. Sunday, I have a rule. I pretty much try to take that day off. I'm always doing something, but I focus on my actual works on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. In between is the days and I'll throw a book in at night if I'm not doing anything. A box of books.
I like that. We see some similar rhythms across Scout IQ customers. Monday to Thursday tend to be very consistent as the full-time people kind of scan the same, their same thrift store routes. Fridays tend to pick up a bit as the weekend warriors kick in. Saturdays are our largest day of scanning, largest day of customer support, et cetera, just because more people are out scouting on the weekends, thrift stores, garage sales, estate sales. And then Sundays tend to be slower, especially during NFL season, probably due to people watching more sports. But it's family time, it's church time, it's listing books, it's sort of putting the pieces back together and gearing up for the next week. So we see that rhythm as well. Do you have any monthly rhythms that you follow in terms of checking your numbers, paying your sources, paying yourself? Do you do anything there on a monthly basis, or is it pretty much just every week looks the same?
Yeah, every week looks the same. Now, this is me. I'm completely different. I really don't look at my numbers, guys. It's bad. I'm going to tell you that right now. I mean, I don't look at my bank account constantly. I will look at my Amazon a little bit. I don't worry about that. You've got to get to a point in your life. Let me explain this. I was able to kind of retire at 57. Okay. You have to be financially secure in all of this that you do. And if you aren't, you will struggle. This is going to be flat out honest. I don't want to sit there and be a slave to looking at my money. Okay. I just want to be able to do what I want to do. And that's what I'm doing. And that's how I roll. And if you do it right, everything will take care of itself. But the key to all of this for everybody, a lot of people, is you've got to get financially secure, especially later in life, because if you don't, it's going to be a tough grind. You think 10, 20 years down from now, with all of the stuff that's going on, all of the inflation, everything like that, it's going to get tough. There are going to be more people who are going to have to work in their late 60s and maybe into their 70s. So you've got to get that all squared away. This is a great way to actually supplement that income. That's what I'm trying to tell people. Look, a lot of retired people trying to figure out how to make an extra $1,000. Here it is. Right? I don't know. That's me.
No, I think that's right. As we do get into what, we're refusing to call it a recession yet, but as we get into a recession, I think we'll see people begin to say, hey, you can either play the victim card and just hope that, life improves, or you can get out there and say, hey, it might not be a full-time income. In fact, it probably won't, but what can I do to just kind of put that work in? Yeah. So for those that are worried about a recession, again, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The best time to start a business was 20 years ago. But the second best time for both of those is today. Don't wait till you fall on your face. Don't wait till you may lose your job or the market crashes or something changes. if you want to like learn those skill sets, put yourself in position. It sounds like you didn't flounder around, you were learning the ropes, but you kind of had a year and a half of, before you really found your stride in the business. And I think that's true for anybody.
Yeah.
It's easy to find that first 10 books, 100 books, and then you start to hit some doldrums and have to realize, all right, there's some work I can put in here. And then once that settles in, and once you have those skill sets, then you'll start to recognize other opportunities, and then one opportunity will drop in as well.
There are two questions I wanted to answer. One was Lorenzo Gomez asked about, with 3,000 books, what's my IPI? My IPI, I don't know what your guys is, but I'd like to know. Mine is like 519. I don't know if that's good or bad.
That's really good.
I don't know. That's only so there, that helped you answers that question. Another one was somebody was wanting to know what percentage is eBay versus Amazon. Scott Taylor asked that. I will say that it was about 50-50.
Oh, wow.
But it has been now very skewed more towards Amazon, but that is on purpose. And there's a reason. At the beginning of the year, I started to realize, I thought that, hey, we are going into a recession. This is something you need to start to think about, is the future. So I said, you know what? Amazon looks where it's going to be at right now. So I really poured more into the Amazon, and I still was doing the eBay, but it was the proper guess. Amazon has taken off. And so eBay's a little bit less. I say 60-40, that kind of situation, maybe even 65-35. But it's more Amazon right now than eBay. A year ago, it was more eBay than Amazon. And you can anybody who goes to my channel, like I said, every 3 months, I'll show you my numbers on both. I'll break it down to the net side. At the end of the year, I'll break the entire year down all the way to the net side. So you see exactly what I took home, minus obviously the taxes.
Love it. And as a Californian, you're paying a little more higher taxes than certain other parts of the country.
Oh, it's insane, man. It's insane.
None of us may have an answer for this one, but Mondo Bid, I think you might have posted this last week as well. So sorry if we didn't get to it. Anybody know an actual real person that can help recover a deactivated account? I've had numerous plans of action. So I guess it depends on why the account was deactivated. It does happen from time to time. Sometimes Amazon just thinks you had an account before, and they're just going to keep banning you until you kind of like write a plan of action. I've had some success going through LinkedIn and finding Amazon employees. Sometimes that can help and get a real person to then forward your request up the chain. But Dave, do you know of anybody offhand, like a lawyer or somebody that could help, like even like a fee for service type thing with account reinstatement?
Sure. I don't have any I can recommend, but I know there are a number of them if you just search on Google. But that being said, I remember the last time I had our account deactivated, it was back in September 2019. And same as this guy, I wrote numerous plans of actions, and it was a pretty stressful period of my life, as you can imagine. But I think it took like 6 weeks at the end of it. Like I had to submit like 5 or 7 different plan of actions. And every time I just tweaked it slightly, but just kept giving them what they needed to hear. And ultimately it just got in front of the right pair of eyes and they reactivated my account. But yeah, I don't have any I could recommend right now.
Yeah, that's a big fear. Yeah, that Amazon, trying to get the thing in so you don't get strikes against you, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's real on Amazon.
Yeah, so we got a little more feedback. Same address. So trying to operate a second account out of the same address. Girlfriend was selling books for years. We've been living together. One day I made my own account and boom. So typically opening up multiple accounts on the same computer or the same IP, not even IP address, but the same like MAC address is what it's called, or computer address, that can be a problem. So you may have to just ask for forgiveness. Maybe just go back to using your girlfriend's account if you're able to. But that's usually something where you will be able to get that straightened out. So yeah, it is very frustrating. Just keep doing plans of action. I think the same thing holds true when it comes to just getting like brand approvals. I remember trying to get it ungated in CDs and DVDs, and you follow all the rules. You make sure you did the right invoices, you submit it, and Amazon says nope. And you do it again, they say nope, and you're like banging your head against the wall. And what it kind of came down to was literally just taking the PDF and writing, this is the rule, you have to have 10 units or minimum MSRP of $25, and just showing them, hey, I meet your criteria. So whoever was looking at it finally said, oh yeah, you do. So yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious because I'm still, pretty new at this. Do you find that selling used is safer on Amazon? Do you know what I mean by the books? Meaning we're selling used books, not necessarily new items. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out that part. I've never had any issues, but it seems like you're selling used books. You're not going to have necessarily receipts for that, right? I mean, you might have a receipt for the whole thing.
No,
The
and
big
you can
one,
just,
of course, was textbooks.
yeah.
Yeah, textbook
was-
requires that. Yeah, you can have a problem.
Textbooks are the highest risks because they're the most counterfeited. They're the highest value, and
That's
we've gotten caught a few times, not intentionally doing it. And we even had practices in place to spot counterfeit textbooks, but some of the counterfeits are really good and they end up slipping through. And so, but that being said, I think there are a number of things that you can do to de-risk your business. Mike, you touched on a good one where, hey, you know what? Don't put all your eggs in the Amazon basket. Try selling on eBay. And, for the person who reached out, MondoBid, I'd say, eBay really isn't that different of a platform. You do have to ship everything yourself, but there are worse things in the world.
Yeah, that's what you got. That's the other thing is diversification within platforms. Mercari, I mean, just other platforms do help you spread some of that around. You don't want to have them all in one, and then all of a sudden that's gone. Boom. You got to restart the other. But if you have the other platform, you could try to scale the other platform.
Right.
For sure. Looks like they're already pivoting, saying they're full-time on eBay. So definitely do that. Keep working hard. I think Robin Johnson is a name that comes to mind. I know there's some legal stuff that they help with. She runs a great group. So even if she doesn't help you specifically, I'm sure someone in their group could do that. So ROBYN Johnson is a name you can check out. And then Scott Taylor says he's heard of a specialist in the PAC group. Is that Jim's group maybe? But can't. I think that's a silent sales machine. So anyway, a couple options there as well, but that might be a good question for our Facebook group as well, kind of crowdsource that, get a number of answers. Well, we will take just a few more questions. We're already a little over an hour here, so we will take a couple more questions from the audience. So if you have those, let's do that. But in the meantime, we're going to get to the section of the show called the Geek Out moment, or what have we been studying lately. Mike was a little nervous. He wasn't adequately prepared, so hopefully you came up with something.
You guys go first.
This will be like when the waitress comes along or waiter at a restaurant and you're not quite sure what you're ordering. So we're going to talk slowly, give Mike a little chance to catch up. But me specifically, I love to travel. I love new experiences. And I've been trying to sort through what draws me into that. And part of it is just the people watching. It's the environment. And so I've just been analyzing what makes a good space. There's certain spaces you get into, and architecturally, maybe the way the light comes in, you're drawn to it. You feel like you can perform optimally. Your brain thinks well. So I've just been studying as I travel. I think one of the cool things with talking to other business owners is you get to pick off certain elements of their business that they do really well, and then actually kind of absorb those into your own business. Even if it's a different business, you can still take their best practices and apply those. And so I've just been really intrigued. I haven't really gotten into studying it or looking at books about it, but just intrigued by, as I'm going around, being observant and going, all right, I like this space. I like this room. I like this city. What is it about that draws me in? And then how can I replicate that back home to kind of improve that environment? We've got a chance in our warehouse to pick up a slightly different space. I think it's a little smaller, but it's a much nicer space. It's finished out. Our current space is pretty dark. Doesn't have the best lighting, and it just kind of feels more like a dungeon, just a typical book warehouse. But the new space, we could almost do retail out of it. It's that shiny, it's clean, it's nice. And I'm really trying to wrestle. It's a little more money, but I'm trying to wrestle with, does that space offset the cost? And is that space, are there going to be some performance improvements in terms of just being prouder of the space as we go to work? So I've been really intrigued by that. I'm curious to see what will come up. And if I do end up getting a different space, I will definitely share that on the socials. Dave, what have you been geeking out over lately?
Sure. This is something that I guess I learned a few weeks back, but I don't think I've shared with you guys. But essentially, I learned of a new frame to think about management and I guess problem solving. I have a number of people who work with me, and they often come to me with problems, sometimes small, like, hey, my printer is not working, to something larger, like, hey, I'm not getting along with my coworker. And essentially this new frame that I learned about is setting the expectation of people coming with their problems, but also bringing solutions with that problem, them thinking of a solution. And really what that has done is, number one, it sort of creates shared responsibility. So it's not them just depending on me to figure things out. They also kind of take the onus to, really own up to their work, but then also teaches them creativity and problem solving. And what that has led to is just coming up with solutions that even I wouldn't have thought of, right? And it helps me think of new ideas. And lastly, it buys me back some of my time, because, again, if I'm the one who has to solve all their problems, you end up putting out a lot of fires throughout the day. And so, yeah, there was a really interesting frame that I picked up just a few weeks ago. And so far, it's been interesting. Anytime someone brings it back, it's sort of been retraining myself instead of just trying to jump in and say, hey, do this, 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 sort of saying, hey, you know what, that is a problem. What do you think we should do? And really putting it on them. And yeah, that's something cool that I've been geeking out about.
You're getting into the ninja mind tricks there, but that'll be fun to see how that pans out. And cool. I think people will see just like we're trying to create an atmosphere, you're creating that same atmosphere there. Sort of a safe space. So that'll be fun to see what comes of it.
Yeah. So here it is. So it came to me when you talked to me earlier about this, but it's on your logo, the Bourbon's logo. It's the book, Tools of Titans, Tim Ferriss. And I have made a conscious effort. Now, when I was younger, I didn't do this. I would tell you people that the number one thing I feel you should do is read, but read the right books. And I have thought, I'm getting all these books, so I'm peeling these books that are interesting to me, and I'm reading them, but I'm also giving them away. Tools of Titans, I've given away at least 3 or 4 copies. James Clear, Atomic Habits, I've given away that book. So what I'm doing is reading more, and I've put a library, a geek library, if you want to call it, out in front of my workstation where I package all my eBay stuff, and that's how I read. What I do is I'll pull a book off, and I'll read for 15 minutes and highlight. And I'm trying to teach people. My goal in the long term for me on YouTube is to inspire people, to get people to move to an action. So many people are frozen. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to read and reinforce myself so I can instill some positiveness and something to people so that they'll get out and they'll say, hey, I can do Amazon FBA books, and then give them the tools. Say, look, this is what I use. This is how I use. This is my numbers. I'm 60 years old. This is this was foreign to me 3 years ago. So I'm trying to do those kind of things. And that is reading. I used to think of people who read a long time ago as geeks, right? Geeky. Look at me. I'm 60 and I've got a nice little library of positive books. I like positive books. And so I will give books away all the time. And what a great way, right? It's so much fun with Amazon. I grab those books and I'll say, this one will be a good one. Today I got Babylon's. What was them? Oh, I can't remember the book. I got it, but I'm going to put it out and I'll give it away. I want somebody, hey, I'll pay for shipping, everything. Here you go. Here's the book. That's my geeky thing.
Love it. We should talk more books on this show since it is a book show.
Yeah.
We have just a few questions. We're going to go rapid fire, and then we will wind this down in just a few short minutes. So we'll just kind of spear these or serve these up toward Mike. And if Dave, you want to jump in on anything, feel free. Do we use a service like Refund Manager or AMZ Refund? Anything that helps you kind of account for lost inventory?
No, I do not. These are things I need to learn. I do not use any of that.
Dave?
I've used them a few times and never found much value.
Yeah.
I use them. If it's free money, it's free money. It's kind of could I do it better, build a system? Probably, but it's just one less thing I have to worry about. What's the best venue and or strategy for selling duds? We give them to a bookstore locally, and a gentleman comes down, picks them up as often as we have a van load or car load full of books. We don't get a ton of duds through our business just due to consignment, but stuff that hasn't sold or stuff that may be damaged, he will try and sell it through his library. Sorry, through his local bookstore, which is really nice. So we try and keep the books out of landfills. We don't want to throw them in a dumpster. So that's how we do it. I know, Dave, you probably recycle them.
Yeah, we work with a number of recyclers.
Yeah, and mine just go back into a Gaylord, and the company recycles them, like we talked about. Sometimes we will take Alcoholic Anonymous books, and we will keep those, and then my friend will take them and give them away. So, but most of them go back into the Gaylord.
Yep. Well, perfect. Well, Mike, thank you for your time. Thanks for sharing it with us. How can people learn more about your story and kind of follow along with your selling adventure?
Best place is YouTube at Golden State Picker, and I do videos, and that's it right there. I will help you if you get to my YouTube channel. Believe it or not, I'm one of the few that will answer every question. If you send me an email, I am proactive for that. I want to help.
Perfect. Well, we appreciate that about you. We appreciate that about the community. Well, from all of us here, thank you for joining us for this week's episode. Be sure to tune in next week as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, whatever you might want to call it. And on that note, we will say one final cheers. My drink is empty. I can't even drink at this point, but we'll say cheers and sign off and catch you all next week. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.